Hello everyone and welcome! We talked about Swain, the story that expanded his character and the story that explained how Noxus works. Now it is time to cover the other three Noxians, Katarina, LeBlanc and Darius. When separated, their stories aren't that long, so I decided to put all three of them into one video. So let's start with the oldest and most mysterious person, LeBlanc. Matron of the Black Rose. LeBlanc's identity is as intangible as the whispers that describe her, as ephemeral as the illusions that give her shape. Perhaps it is unknown even to herself, after so many centuries of mimicry and deception. Remnants of an order that has existed far longer than Noxus itself, initiates of the Black Rose have schemed from the shadows for centuries, drawing the rich and powerful to their ranks. Though they do not often learn the origins of their matron, many have uncovered legends of a pale sorceress who aided the broken barbarian tribes in their struggle against the infamous Iron Revenant subjugating lands already ravaged by the Darkin. Even today, his name is whispered in fear. Mordekaiser. Uniquely skilled among the Revenant's inner circle before she betrayed him, the sorceress pledged to neutralize the source of his power, the immortal Bastion, cutting him off from the well of death that fueled his nightmarish empire. Yet, even as the barbarians built an empire of their own in the Bastion's shadow, they failed to realize that the arcane secrets it held had not completely been locked away. The Pale Sorceress had always been gifted at illusion, and her greatest trick was to make Noxus forget the dark power roiling in its own heart, before she was burned from the pages of history around the time of the Rune Wars. The Black Rose exists now to further clandestine interests of those who can wield such magic, with its rank and file composed of mundane nobles, drawn to rumors of miracles, kept in thrall and ruthlessly exploited. Even the most powerful military commander could only ever serve the cult's true masters, as they fight one another for influence in games of intrigue and conquest, both in the Noxian capital and beyond its borders. For centuries, LeBlanc has served in secret as an advisor to foreign dignitaries, appearing in many nations at once, her illusions driving order into chaos. Rumors of a new matron rising with each generation only raise further questions. Which is the true version of herself? When she speaks, is it her own voice? And what will be the price for the favor she offers? Borem Darkwill was but the latest to learn the last answer for himself. Though the Black Rose had aided his bid for the throne, he refused the counsel of their hand-picked advisors, requiring LeBlanc to take drastic measures. Manipulating a young nobleman named Jericho Swain into revealing the cult's involvement, LeBlanc allowed herself to be executed along with the most prominent conspirators, or at least, so it appeared. In time, she reached out to Darkwill himself and found an increasingly paranoid ruler, fearful of his own mortality. After promising him the secrets to extend his life, LeBlanc slowly poisoned Darkwill's mind, even as she empowered him. Under his rule, the Noxian reverence of strength became something far more sinister, and together they ensured Swain's legend would end in disgrace on the battlefields of Ionia. But Swain, embodied by forbidden lore from within the immortal Bastion, did something wholly unexpected, managing to drag Darkwill from the throne and seize Noxus for himself. This new Grand General was not interested in his own legacy, but in the glory of the Empire, and such a man could not so easily be corrupted. After countless centuries, LeBlanc wondered, had she finally found a worthy nemesis? Her actions have pushed Runeterra to the brink of an all-out war many times. In the wake of desperate campaigns across the Freljord, the Targon's peaks, and deep in Shrima's deserts, the darkest magic has begun to spread once more, circling closer and closer to Noxus. Whether LeBlanc is still the same pale sorceress who betrayed the Iron Revenant, or merely one of countless hollow reflections, her influence clearly stems from ancient roots. The Black Rose has yet to truly bloom. Born to one of the most respected noble families of Noxus, Katarina du Couteau found herself elevated above others from an early age. While her younger sister Cassiopeia took after their politically brilliant mother, Katarina was very much her father's daughter, and the wily General du Couteau pushed her to learn the way of the blade. to cut away the Empire's enemies not with reckless brutality, but deadly precision. He was a harsh teacher with many pupils, and notoriously difficult to impress. So it was that Katarina's childhood, if it can be called such, had little room for kindness or rest. She spent every waking moment honing herself into the ultimate weapon, testing her endurance, her dexterity, her tolerance of pain. She stole poisons from the city's least reputable apothecaries, testing their efficiency in tiny increments upon herself, gradually building her resistance even as she catalogued their effects. She scaled the tallest towers in the dead of night, unseen by anyone. She yearned to do her part for Noxus. She yearned for an opportunity to demonstrate her hidden strength in service of the Empire and the throne. Her first mark came straight from her father, camped with his warbands on the eve of one of the military's innumerable westward invasions. She was to assassinate a line officer of the opposing army, a low-born wretch by the name of Demetrius. Katarina was livid. She hadn't trained her entire life to have her talents wasted on some dugheel barely skilled enough to swing a sword. He simply wouldn't do. Instead of her assigned target, Katarina stole into the enemy camp and slit the enemy commander's throat as he slept. It was a flawless execution. It would bring a swift victory and glory to Noxus. It would make her father proud. At dawn, his face was daubed with ashes. The vengeful hero Demetrius led a berserk charge into her father's encampment. Dozens of Noxian soldiers were slaughtered, along with the general's personal retinue. Katarina's father himself barely escaped with his life. He was furious beyond words, refusing to even look his daughter in the eye. She had shamed him and their family name. The greatest assassins do not seek recognition or glory, he reminded her. They do not expect to occupy a place of honor at their master's right hand. Overwhelmed, Katarina struck out into the wilderness alone. She would complete her original mission. Demetrius would pay with his life. Even so, her mind swam. Could she ever forgive herself? How had she been so foolish? She was so distracted she didn't see her attacker until he had nearly taken out her eye. For Katarina's failure, General Dooku To had sent another of his proteges after her, a nameless whelp dragged up from one of the lesser assassins' guilds. But even with blood streaming down her face, the years of rigorous training kicked in, and her blades were in her hands in an instant. 6 hours later, she tossed Demetrius' severed head at her father's feet. She told the general she had considered taking his head instead, but eventually decided, as much as she hated to admit it, that he had done the right thing in ordering her death. She had failed, not just as an assassin or as a daughter, but as a Noxian, and failure must have its consequences. She ran her fingers along the raw, deep gash over her left eye and thought of the price others had to pay for her arrogance. She knew she had lost her father's favor and could never regain it. He would rise others in her place simply to spite her. Still, she vowed to redeem herself, no matter the cost, to rededicate her talents to the Empire, and to become the sinister weapon she always intended to be. Darius and his brother Draven grew up as orphans in the port city of Basilish. Darius struggled to provide for them both, constantly fighting with gangs of urchins and anyone else who threatened his little brother, even the city guard. Every day on the streets was a battle for survival, and Darius earned more scars by his 12th summer than some soldiers in a lifetime. After Basilish was seized by the expanding Noxian Empire, the victorious commander Cyrus saw the strength in these defiant brothers, and they found a home within the ranks of his war host. Over the years they fought in many grueling campaigns of conquest from one end of the known world to the other, as well as crushing a number of rebellions against the throne. Within the Empire, anyone could rise to power, no matter their birth, culture or background, and none embraced this ideal more fervently than Darius. From humble beginnings, he rose steadily through ranks, always putting duty before all else, and garnering great respect for his aggression, discipline, and refusal to ever take a backward step. On the blood-soaked fields of the Delamore Plain, he even beheaded a Noxian general after the coward ordered a retreat. Roaring in defiance and hefting his bloodied axe overhead, Darius rallied the scattered warbands and won a great and unexpected victory against far more numerous foe. He was rewarded with a senior command of his own, attracting many thousands of eager recruits from across the Empire. Darius turned the majority away, accepting only the strongest, the most disciplined and iron-willed. Such was his fearsome notoriety, even in the lands beyond Noxus, that it was not uncommon for entire cities to surrender at the first sight of his banners. After a grinding victory against the Cloud Fortress of Varju, a proud warrior people who had resisted decades of Noxian aggression, Darius was named the Hand of Noxus by the Emperor Borem Darkwill himself. Those who knew Darius best knew he craved neither power nor adulation. He wished merely to see Noxus triumph over all, so Darkwill ordered him and his warhosts far north into the Freljord, to finally bring the barbarian tribes to heel. The campaign dragged for years, ending in a bitter icy stalemate. Darius narrowly survived assassination attempts, ambushes, and even capture by the vicious Winter's Claw. He was growing weary of endless wars of attrition, and returned to Noxus to demand a reconsolidation of the military. He marched his veterans into the capital, only to find that the Emperor was dead, killed in a coup led by Jericho Swain. The act had been supported by many allies, including Darius' own brother, Draven. This was a difficult position. As Hand, many of the noble houses would expect Darius to avenge Darkwill, but he had known and greatly respected the disgraced General Swain, and had spoken against his discharge after the botched offense in Ionia some years earlier. The oaths of the Hand were to Noxus, not any particular ruler, and Swain was a man who spoke honestly of his new vision for the Empire. Darius realized this was a leader he was prepared to follow, but Swain had other ideas. With the establishment of the Triforix, 3 individuals would rule Noxus together, each embodying one principle of strength, vision, might, and guile. Darius gladly accepted his place in this council, and pledged to rise a new elite force, the Trifarian Legion, the most loyal and prestigious warriors the Empire could produce, and led the armies of Noxus into a glorious new age of conquest. And those were the stories of LeBlanc, Katarina, and Darius. For now, that's it for Noxus. It seems like these stories are tying really well into past events. I am pretty sure I heard the mention of a magical well in Noxus, and it might even be part of our Darkin theory. On top of that, it seems like LeBlanc was one of Mordekaiser's followers, that is, before she betrayed him. She might have even been the one who stole away his skull. Also, Katarina's story is mainly about her father, so I wonder how Talon falls into this. Maybe he was the assassin who was supposed to kill her. But that's something for another time. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to rate it and subscribe for more news and lore. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. Streams are pretty regular, so keep an eye on our Twitch too. Links to merch and P.O.Box will be in the description. Of course, massive shout out to our patrons for going the extra mile. You guys are the best. And with that, thank you all so much for being here and for your support. You know, I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you come again.